the brainwave that unlocks the afterlife. Right before the end, as life seems to be fading out, something remarkable might be happening inside the brain. In some people, scientists have seen a massive, powerful surge of energy, a wave of gamma brainwaves erupting from the very centers of consciousness and memory. This isn't the brain just shutting down. This is the brain lighting up like a firework display. And this final, vivid burst of neural activity could be the key to understanding one of the most profound human mysteries. What happens when we die? Section 1. The central question. What really goes on in the final moments of life? For centuries, that question belonged to philosophers and theologians. But now, neuroscience is pulling up a chair to the conversation, and its findings are a total paradox. We've all heard the stories, tales from people who have been to the brink of death and back. They talk about a brilliant white light, seeing their life flash before their eyes, or floating outside their own bodies, looking down at the scene below. For a long time, these near-death experiences, or NDES, were often dismissed as hallucinations, just tricks of a dying brain starved of oxygen. But what if they aren't just the random firings of a failing system? What if they are part of a highly structured, meaningful event that some of our brains are capable of producing? Recent, groundbreaking studies are pointing to a stunning possibility. Researchers monitoring the brains of a small number of dying patients have observed a paradoxical surge of highly organized electrical activity right around the time of death. This surge is made of gamma waves, the fastest and most complex brain waves we have. This leads us to the heart of our journey today. Could this final, powerful brainwave be the biological engine behind the profound experiences that people report from the edge of death? Are we getting our first glimpse of the neural blueprint for what some call the afterlife? Section 2. The scientific foundation. To get what's happening, we first need to talk about gamma waves. Think of your brain as a symphony orchestra. You've got the slow, deep rhythms of delta waves during dreamless sleep, and the faster alpha waves when you're relaxed. Then you have gamma waves. These aren't just one instrument playing. This is the whole orchestra in perfect, complex harmony. Gamma waves are the fastest brain waves we have, and they're associated with our highest cognitive functions: intense focus, information processing, and conscious perception. When you have a light bulb moment or feel totally in the zone, your brain is humming with gamma activity. Neuroscientists believe this is what binds our perceptions together, creating a single, unified conscious experience. So it's a profound paradox that just as the body is shutting down, a massive surge of these highly organized gamma waves has been seen to erupt in some cases. This isn't a flicker, it's a finale. Studies led by Dr. Jimo Borjigan at the University of Michigan observed this in 2 out of 4 patients as life support was withdrawn. They found that in the final moments, there was a dramatic spike in gamma activity, especially in a region at the back of the brain known as the posterior cortical hot zone. This area, where our temporal, parietal, and occipital lobes meet, is a critical hub for consciousness, dreaming, and making sense of the world. Basically, just as the brain is supposedly going dark, a network tied to conscious experience suddenly roars to life. The activity doesn't look like random chaos. It appears coordinated and synchronized. It's as if the brain, in its final act, might be entering a state of heightened neural connectivity. This raises the astonishing possibility that the brain doesn't always just switch off. It might orchestrate one final, complex experience. Section 3. The human story, a composite case study. Let's step out of the lab and into the human experience. Picture a woman named Anna. She's in the hospital and suddenly goes into cardiac arrest. On the outside, it's chaos. Doctors and nurses rush in, monitors are blaring, a frantic effort to restart her heart. To them, Anna is unresponsive, clinically near death. But inside Anna's mind, it's a totally different story. The panic and pain vanish, replaced by an overwhelming sense of peace. She feels herself lifting, floating up. Looking down, she sees her own body on the bed below, a calm and detached observer of the whole scene. This is the classic out-of-body experience. Then, she feels a pull toward a brilliant, benevolent light. This light isn't just something she sees, it's a feeling, an all-encompassing sense of unconditional love. As she gets closer, her life begins to unfold before her in a full immersion replay. She re-experiences key moments, feeling not just what she felt, but also understanding the ripple effect of her actions on others. This is the life review. She meets presences that feel like departed loved ones. There's a sense of being home, of understanding the universe in a way she never could before. A boundary appears, a point of no return. But just as she considers crossing, she feels a violent jolt. The peace shatters, and she slams back into her body, gasping for air as a defibrillator shocks her heart into rhythm. The experience is over, but it has changed her forever. Anna's story is a composite, but its elements are reported by millions of people who have had near-death experiences. For decades, we had the stories, but no solid biological clues. Now, with the discovery of the gamma surge in some dying patients, scientists have a fascinating new lead to investigate. Section 4. Connecting the science and the story. So how might the science of a gamma surge explain what people like Anna experience? Let's try to connect the dots, remembering this is still a hypothesis. First, the out-of-body sensation. The gamma wave burst seems particularly strong in the temporoparietal junction, an area some call the consciousness hot zone. This part of the brain is like our internal GPS, telling us where we are in space. Disrupt this area, and people report feeling like they're floating or watching from the outside. It's hypothesized that a gamma surge lighting up this region could be a potential neural trigger for that experience. Next, the life review. The gamma surge also shows strong connections to brain areas involved in memory, like the hippocampus. This pattern of activity is remarkably similar to what our brains do during deep memory retrieval and dreaming. It's plausible that the brain, in this state of heightened connectivity, could be rapidly scanning through decades of memories, creating that vivid, panoramic life review. If so, it's not a hallucination, but a real, memory-based event powered by this incredible neural activity. And the tunnel of light? The intense visual phenomena could be linked to gamma activity in the brain's visual processing center, while the overwhelming peace could be tied to the release of neurochemicals that detach the mind from the body's physical trauma. The experience feels realer than real, as many survivors report, perhaps because the very parts of our brain that build reality are firing in a uniquely powerful and coherent way. Section 5. Addressing skepticism. Of course, this is a new and developing field, and it's important to be skeptical. The leading alternative theory has long been that NDEs are caused by a lack of oxygen to the brain, hypoxia, triggering chaotic neural firing. Another idea is that it's a REM intrusion, where dream elements invade our consciousness during trauma. However, the gamma surge theory challenges these ideas. The activity observed in the two patients wasn't chaotic, it was highly organized. But that doesn't close the case. Some scientists suggest this surge could be a type of seizure activity, not a sign of heightened consciousness. It's also crucial to point out the limits of the research. These studies involve very small numbers of patients. The main study had just 4, with the surge seen in 2. And because the patients didn't survive, they couldn't be interviewed to confirm what, if anything, they experienced. So we can't draw a direct line between the gamma surge and an NDE. We are at the very beginning of this field, and the findings are more of a fascinating question than a final answer. Section 6. The wow moment, the implication. So what's the big takeaway from all this? If this research holds up, it could reframe how we think about death. Near-death experiences might not be a glimpse into a spiritual realm, but a journey into the incredible, untapped power of our own biology. The organ that builds our reality every second of our lives might just have one last trick up its sleeve. It suggests that for some, consciousness doesn't just switch off. Instead, the brain may generate a final, self-referential, and deeply meaningful experience. Think of it as the brain's ultimate act of meaning-making, taking a lifetime of memories and weaving them into one last coherent story. It's a biological process that could give rise to a profoundly personal and spiritual feeling event. This doesn't diminish the experience. You could argue it makes it even more awe-inspiring. It would mean that we may have a natural mechanism to make the transition out of life not just terrifying, but transcendent and meaningful. The afterlife, in this sense, might not be a place you go, but a state of consciousness you enter, powered by the final, brilliant flash of your own brain. This research is constantly evolving, and it's opening up as many questions as it answers. That's why the conversation is so important. What do you think about all this? Have you or someone you know had an experience like the ones described? Share your thoughts and stories respectfully in the comments below. Your perspective adds to this incredible human exploration. And if you find these mysteries as fascinating as we do, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next exploration into the puzzles of the human mind. Conclusion. We are standing at a new frontier in the science of death. The discovery of a paradoxical gamma surge in some dying brains has opened a door that was once firmly closed. While we are a long way from definitive answers, it's becoming harder to say the brain is simply inactive at the moment of death. Instead, it seems at least capable of generating a final burst of activity that beautifully mirrors the near-death experiences people have reported for millennia. This research doesn't prove there's life after death, but it does offer a powerful potential explanation for what happens at the moment of death. It suggests some of our brains might be hardwired for one last profound story. And it leaves us with a lingering question to ponder. If our brains can create such a vivid and meaningful final experience, what does that truly tell us about the nature of consciousness itself?